Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the REDX podcast. Welcome back to the REDX podcast. My name is Andrew. I am super excited for today's guest. We have Dan Elzer from the Training Academy. Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous, Andrew. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. For everyone who is watching live, just a few announcements here. Remember, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, if you have any questions for Dan, any comments that you want to chat in, please put those comments here. Say hi to Dan. Tell us where you're from. We'll get those addressed. And we are going to have an amazing conversation today about how agents can find a good balanced business in this crazy market, right? Things are out of control right now.
Yes.
The market is crazy. So let's just get right into it, Dan. Tell the audience where you think things are going from here.
Well, as we've talked before, it's inevitable that the marketplace is going to pull back some of that free money from the Federal Reserve. It's going to raise rates just a little bit, and they have to. Inflation's starting to really show its ugly head. So when that occurs, it's going to make things even less affordable. And right now, price appreciation is pricing out a whole bunch of people. But for my agents out there that are buyer side agents, you might be finding that last year you were able to find a deal, you were able to negotiate a deal, and this year it's harder. It's much harder because there's more people per property, and the bidding war and the all the escalation clauses, all this crazy stuff are taking solid buyers that are fully qualified with solid agents, and it's taking 3, 4, 5, in some markets 8 swings of the bat to have a transaction. So where I see things going is if the agents of the business that are here for full time, that are here as a career, this is going to be the way you make your money and the way that you retire. If you don't start making some adjustments to the business model and the way that you operate, I think that you're going to be in trouble. And what I'm getting at is this is no longer a leads business. And I was sharing with you offline. I've been sharing this with agents for 18 months, that they need to start transitioning. And just on Inman News today, there's an article that says if you're buying leads, you're probably out of business within 2 years. So It's something to really start focusing on before the market makes that rotation.
Right. And that's such a good point, is that it's all about adjusting to the market. I think in any market, no matter how crazy it is in a buyer or seller direction, you always have to know how to adjust. So let's get into some of those strategies, of how agents should adjust if they want to last.
Okay. Let's take, for instance, you look at any market. I consult with companies all over the world, and very blessed to be able to do so, but I like to break the numbers down. Right. So I'll take surveys of agents, and we find 70 to 80% of agents are buyer centric. Mm-hmm. So if I take the number of agents in the area times 70%, and then the number of buyer sides that are occurring per month, what we're finding this year is you can get about 0.4, 0.5 on average transactions per month on the buyer side because of the heavy buyer agent involvement and the competitiveness for a property. Sure. Well, multiply that times 12, you're doing 4.5 transactions, 5 transactions. And I have many customers, many of my clients, Andrew, that have experienced agents that are buyer side coming to them going, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And what they're missing from a strategic point is that there's only 20, 25% of agents going after listings. Hmm. And I call it the listing myth or inventory myth, because I have agents all over the world, all the way to New Zealand and Europe and Canada saying there's no inventory, Dan. I go, are your sales up? Oh God, highest sales ever. Then your inventory is the highest ever. Right. You just don't see it accumulate on the shelf anymore.
Right.
So then when people see that, they start going, shoot, actually, this is less competitive if I go try to get a listing. Yes, because there's fewer people shooting for it. And you get paid almost every time if you do that.
Well, that's an interesting way to kind of frame it with this inventory myth. I really like the way that you kind of put that, where it's all about the perception and where you're going to put your time and energy, right?
Exactly. So how do you look at it from a business perspective? I try to make sure agents always remember you're running a small business. Mm-hmm. If we were running a small business and we were trying to sell a widget and I can't get the widgets, I call the manufacturer, I can't get the widgets. Every once in a while I get one. You got to start looking and go, is this the business model I should be operating? Because it's just mathematically not a feasible thing. And then our time and capacity, another thing you and I talked about, I got agents going, I just work constantly to try to hustle to be the one. And I go, well, is that working? And it's not. So,
sure.
Let's really look at the business models and let's make some adjustments. So whenever the agents leave the business, you've made the adjustment into where the market is going, not where it was.
Awesome. Well, let's get tactical then. Let's get really granular here. What are some of those strategies and methods and some of those things that they can do to survive this crazy market?
Well, the biggest strategic move that an agent needs to make is to understand that there's a skill set shift to do the other side. That skill set shift is, I go from showing homes and demonstrating to now I have to be able to present, do a value proposition, gain control in the mind of the seller when I'm there, and I've got to be able to ask with confidence to represent them. And then I also have to be able to differentiate, because right now people say, Dan, when I'm out there, they want to pay me no money for a listing. And I go, you're being commoditized. So now you're not leveraging your winning differences. You're not differentiating. And I always share, commoditization means that the consumer has made the determination that the only difference between you and the competitor is the price of your service. So that means we're not presenting. So that's the first strategic move. Second strategic move is to understand that 73% of listings that sold through 2020 went through Sphere. So the agents that are more buyer side are working so hard. I go, are you still doing your Sphere? And they're like, no.
Right.
73% of the inventory is Sphere driven, and only 27% is random out there. So using our REDX tools and stuff, we still want to go after the random, but we also want to use our CRM and our skills to make sure we're going after that Sphere, because that's where the bulk of it is.
Right. And is it okay to think about that in terms of like on market transactions versus off market transactions, your Sphere being some of those kind of behind the scenes,
shadow inventory. And here's
shadow inventory. Okay.
NAR, the National Association of Realtors, and all the MLSs are cracking down on coming soon type things and people pocketing listings.
Right. Yep.
To get around it, people started putting a listing but not putting the address, and all this games. And I just want to go on record with all of you out there that we're pros, guys. You can never tell me the story of not having an open market where you've done the seller proper justice.
Right.
Markets are there for a reason. So I am a huge fan of always using the open market. So that's number one. So people that are not using the market we're seeing this turn happen that isn't really hitting the numbers. So I always say, you can still do your double dip deals. You can do a lot of things. All you have to do is have very qualified people and know that when you bring something to market, your person will know first. But it's still it's to the seller's best interest that others can compete with them. So we get the seller what we hold ourselves out to be. We're giving them an arm's length opportunity for highest and best. Now, as an agent on the list side, I also have to know how to read the buyer's qualification in today's market. Because if I have a weak qualification letter, or if there's still verifications to be done, if there's something happening, but they're willing to overbid, then I might put my seller in a tough spot. If they don't have cash, if they're a 10% down, conventional, and they can't really go beyond that, and it doesn't appraise because they bid it up, they don't have the cash to make up the difference between appraisal. So the other skill that earns us money in front of the seller is how you add value after the sale. How am I adding value in the negotiation and then post the sale, not just getting the exposure to get the sale done.
Right. And I love that you say that add value after the sale. It's about that continual follow-up, because that's your database, right? That's how 2, 3, 4, 7, 10 years from now, you're going to have repeat and referral business coming into you from all that.
Exactly. I see someone said, how do I mean it? I've always thought that we should do better prospecting. Yes, but think of prospecting this way, Gabriel. Think of it as mining your Sphere. I think I shared on the last podcast The greatest, coming out of COVID right now, the greatest empathetic outreach to our sphere, which is our friends, acquaintances, family, and past customers, is to call every single person you've done business with and know, and simply say, hey, Andrew, it's Dan. I'm following up with my clients. How have you and your family handled COVID? That is the most proper empathetic thing we can do right now, to hear the emotional side of people's stories. Now, for everybody out there, write this down. When Andrew comes back and goes, thank you, Dan, I appreciate that. Actually, we've been lucky. Nothing bad's happened in our family. And then they will say, wow, how's your business been with all this craziness? And here's my talk track. Well, Andrew, we have really been blessed. It's been very, very good for us. The problem we're having is we have so many people trying to buy homes. We just don't have enough homes for them to buy. Maybe you can help me. Who do you know in your area, in your sphere, that's thinking of selling? I have clients all over the world that we use that talk track, and they get business constantly. I talk about a 1-5-48. Give me 1 hour a day, 5 days a week for 48 weeks, and I'll get you inventory. I mean, but go where the swimming, I was talking about fishing. If you had to fish for life in a pond, and that's how you had to eat, or I gave you access to the ocean, where would you want to fish if it's the only place you could fish to eat the rest of your life? The pond or the ocean? Everybody goes, well, the ocean, there's more fish. I go, 73% of listings that sell come from your sphere. Why would you fish somewhere else unless you're always still fishing in your sphere?
Right. Right. And I want to touch on two things you said there. One, I love this phrase, and I've never heard this before, but talk track, where it's less of a script. It's not as robotic. It's basically, somewhere to start the conversation that can lead it in any number of directions.
Correct. And that's having exactly. And to that's having the confidence, the skills, and the strategies to deal with a talk track that takes you into someone's needs and someone's responses, instead of having a set script that if they don't follow it, many agents, 33 years of doing this, many agents I've coached and trained go, well, they didn't, I did this and that didn't go that way. And I go, okay, see, you're focused on the script, not on the track. Stay on the track, listen to the response, and use your skills to go where they go.
I love that. Well, the second thing I wanted to bring up from that is when you're asking them who they might know that wants to buy, a lot of people have this trepidation about reaching out to their sphere, where they say, I don't want to bug them, and I don't want to be salesy, and I don't want to, make them think that. But when you ask them, hey, I'm here to help your friends. I'm here just to ask you if you know anyone. It seems a little less invasive to me, right? A little less pestery.
Exactly. And here's the other thing: believe in your value as a salesperson. I have over 33 years of building my own companies. I've had 2 of them, and then 2 real estate companies, and then working with companies and agents. I find this resistance in the real estate industry of being a salesperson. Right. There is honor and there's value in sales as long as you follow the consumer's need. And I use another international speaker. We're on stage a lot. He says, remember, treatment before diagnosis is malpractice. So as long as my treatment is following my diagnosis, I can be as salesy as I need to be, because the consumer wants to go in that direction.
Right.
When we use some of these outdated or improper scripts, I did this job. I've done it on and off multiple times in my life. I've coached companies and people to success. I always ask people that come up with scripts that sound cute but don't work. I go, have you ever used it in front of someone? I'll ask my peers that, and they get nervous and they're like, what? I go, it sounds good, but I've been in front of a seller. If I use that, here's what would happen. So always make sure that you're okay being a salesperson, but that script, that talk track is going in, it's meeting people where they are, not trying to force them to where you want them to go.
Gotcha. So with this talk track, and I like that you made it kind of the COVID, how has it affected your family talk track? How do you think now that restrictions are lightening up, things are getting slowly but surely back to normal, quote unquote? Yep. How do you think that talk track will change, or how would you recommend that agents change that as things lighten up and we get back to normal?
If we go back, even though it's only been a year that we got locked up, if we go back prior to any boom, this is a relationship business. Sure. Like I talk to luxury people. I go, if you're a luxury agent and you haven't immersed yourself in the luxury social lives, you're not going to meet the people that have luxury needs.
Right.
So it's all about getting back out and socially interacting, but you have to remember that you still have people all over the scale. I was just in California with a company, actually 3 of my companies. I popped through and did 3 gigs last week. And when I was there, I met everyone from, I feel confident, I've had my vaccine, I feel safe, all the way to people that have been vaccinated that are still scared to death. Sure. So the first thing I have to have, social intelligence, my intelligence, my IQ intelligence, or my social intelligence.
Social intelligence.
So I got to know how to read you, because if I go and I act in a way that seems dangerous to you, you won't want to interact with me.
Right.
So I have to be very self-aware. Then when I'm with people, I have to ask questions, and that COVID question will work for probably another 6, 8, 10 months until we feel differently. Yes. All I'm going to do now is, instead of call you, I'm just going to go immerse myself in the settings where the people that I want to do business with are. Sure. And, and to that point, we, in the programs we have, Andrew, there's about 6 or 7 ways to approach your sphere. There are digital ways, there's handwritten ways, there's calling ways, there's social engagement ways, live social engagement ways, but all of them carry a different angle of the talk track to be able to learn first and ask for business second. And then you don't sound like that person calling all the time going, hey, Andrew, just following up, do you have anyone for me? Well, right. Shoot, if that's all you say when you call me, then I'm going to not take the call. But if you engage empathetically, if you understand that I need to discover before I offer, you get to talk about your life. And 80% of the time you'll ask me about my life. And then it's an easy give.
Right. And I love that, because it comes back to that same principle of the talk track principle of be flexible with your scripts, be flexible with your conversations. And I love that. Learn first, ask second.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
If I always look at it this way, I think you're playing cards. If you and I are playing cards, you don't show me your cards.
Nope.
Most of us try to make our intro, our pitch, our close, our ask with cards up against my chest.
Right.
If I can get you to put your cards on the table, it becomes easy. So the skills that we teach in all of our programs are about how do we do this human interaction properly, that people lower their defenses and show their cards.
Right.
Because when you can learn that, and then you can offer a solution that's based in their need, they don't feel they were sold. They come running to you.
Right.
A quick story. I would go out on listing appointments with my agents sometimes, and I had an agent swing twice. Guy was a retired Chicago bricklayer, tough guy. This female agent, she thought maybe he didn't like her or whatever. So I came with her on the 3rd listing. And Andrew, I used every professional sales technique I own to get him to list with us. And I had to get him to cage dogs, because his dogs, he called it piddling on the carpet. The dogs were piddling on the carpet. This is a big, tough guy with these little toy dogs.
Yeah.
So I had to convince him to cage his dogs, change his carpet, clean up the house so we could sell it. It was an expired. Sure enough, I got him to do it with all kinds of sales skills. The house sold. He found out that I was the owner and I was pretending to be her partner. And he called me one day and he goes, hey, my agent sold him a new house on a river. And he said, you're invited to the housewarming, but you got to bring the keg of beer. He goes, I found out you're the owner. And I laughed. I said, you got it. What kind do you want? I showed up, and this man literally put his arm around me, looked at his friends at his housewarming party and said, guys, if you need anyone, you need to see Advantage Realty and Dan Elzer's team. He never pressured me. He said those words. Andrew and all the agents out there, I'm here to tell you, I used every technique in the book to pressure the guy to make a decision. The reason he told his friends he wasn't pressured was I knew what his outcome was and his need before I did it.
Right.
People will not feel sold if you provide a solution to their problem.
Well, what I really love about that is I think it makes real estate for the real estate agent more meaningful, right? Like if you're all about just close, move on, close, move on, close, move on, you're missing out on a really important potential aspect of real estate, which is a fun time and relationships and friendships, right?
And then the referral that comes from them, that becomes your sphere.
Yes.
So I tell people 73% of business comes from the sphere. If I leave you uncertain, or if I don't run the business right, for instance, and it's a little bit of hectic stress for the close,
sure,
you don't walk around and tell your friends, well, who sold your house? oh, Dan listed and sold it. It was a hot mess. I almost had a heart attack. It was stressed out. You should use them. We don't say that.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure that I'm performing in a way that like that gentleman did, put his arm around me and said, he didn't pressure us. This guy's amazing. That's called a raving fan. If you ever read the book, that raving fan will tell 5 or 6 people about their experience. If I don't do it right, or if I don't stay in touch, I lose out on that 73%. And that's where the longevity comes. And that's where the balance, I want to hit balance for a second. That's where the balance comes. If I'm not bringing the listings in, picture this world, Andrew. Mm-hmm. What if I could show you a way to do the 1-5-48 where you would list enough properties? And by the way, the stat is 54% of sellers will end up buying from their listing agent. They don't move away or stop looking or whatever. Mm-hmm. If I could show you a way to get enough listings that when they sell and 54% of your sellers buy from you, you'll make more money than you ever dreamed of. And the best news is you never put a buyer in your car that wasn't already your seller. Do you think some of the agents would like that life?
Sign me up.
See,
that sounds like easy business. Yeah.
And that's the difference between letting the market dictate improperly how I should run and having a business model, having a plan and an execution on skill, strategy, and confidence.
I love that. I love that. Well, outside, I mean, we've talked about sphere of influence. We've talked about these talk tracks and what you should say and how we should adjust to this market. Outside of the sphere of influence, are there any strategies that you would recommend to agents to go? I mean, if they're new, if their sphere isn't very strong, if they are, hardcore prospectors, what should they do?
Well, first of all, if they're on the buyer side and they've done transactions, one of the mistakes they make is they don't capitalize on the transaction. A listing agent will do a just listed mailing. They might walk the neighborhood and see if anyone has a friend to live there. When it sells, they put out just sold mail. They did an open house. They do an invite to an open house. So the surrounding people see my name and my face 3, 4, 5 times plus my sign in the yard. You come and sell it, no one knows you exist. So what I share with buyer agents is if you're not doing a post-sale, I sold this place, I was the one who brought the buyer. If you're not doing that, you're not getting your face in front of the next listing in the marketplace. So I always tell buyer agents, go back, and I want you to maybe go back 3 months, 4 months, and everything that you touched that sold on the buyer side, paper that marketplace that you were the one.
Right.
That could begin it. So that's one form of making that transition to balance your business.
Is that kind of like an expanded just sold strategy?
Yes.
Rather than just sold, it's just sold,
Yeah.
In general. Right.
From the buyer's perspective, I was the cause of that. Now, the second one is you never ignore in the market you want to have dominant market share. You never ignore an expired or a for sale by owner.
Right.
And stop believing that they're not there. I went to a market and talked about one of our digital prospecting techniques for sale by owners. And everybody said, Dan, there are no for sale by owners. I pulled up through this digital prospecting technique. I pulled up and I got 32 for sale by owners in their marketplace. And everybody was like, how'd you do that? I go, see, you guys aren't even looking. 75% of for sale by owners still list, even in hot markets. And there was 42 of them. And everyone told me there are none. There is always opportunity out there. But that's why I say the 1-5-48. Give me an hour a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year doing listing-based work. And before you know it, you'll start to transition your business back to a balanced business and you'll survive what's coming down the road, which is something's going to happen to us with this economy sooner or later, and you'll want to have listings.
I love it. I love it. And with expireds, are you focusing on, I mean, I know there's not a lot of current expireds and maybe I'm wrong there, but do you kind of do old expireds? And if you do, how far back do you date those?
I always like to go 6 months.
Okay.
Because some people will say, I want to wait a while.
Right.
So I'll go back 6. I'll check to see if they weren't relisted and I want to hit them. Once I go back 6, if I'm consistent moving forward, even if there's none, one, as long as I'm consistent, I can stay up with it. If they tell me that they're, this is crazy, I don't think I'll find a house, I'm going to wait a while. They go on my CRM for me to keep them warm, to stay in touch with them. So I don't show up one day and there's a sign in their yard.
Right. Excellent. Well, Dan, we have packed so much information and so much value into the last 25 minutes here. Unfortunately, we got to wrap up a little bit early today, but I want to give you the last chance to give one last word, one last piece of final advice to agents here joining us today.
Well, as I share with you, Andrew, because of the market and because I'm one of the few out there that still have skill and strategy as my main goal. I'm not a leads guy. I'm about, using your sphere to organically grow your business and be sustainable. I've taught a program called the Real Estate SWAT School. As you know from before, I was a law enforcement officer. I was on our SWAT team. There's a lot of discipline in SWAT. So I have a program called Real Estate SWAT School that is an 8-week on-demand program. It's video-based. You can do it at night and then go do your work. There's accountability partnership in it. So if you want to get even more serious, there is an explanation and a model to follow on how to bring a peer in and do peer-to-peer work. We just released that. I always did it live, but with COVID, we put it into a digital format.
Right.
And we just had our first graduates, and we have people going, I'm 20 years in the business, Dan, and I took 3 listings over the 7 weeks of doing this. I didn't know there were listings out there. Literally have people changing their stars right now with this program. It's a whopping, I made it as affordable as possible. It's $279. And if anybody out there wants to change their stars and be in this business in the next 9 months as it changes, you can go to that, scrolling across there, rwswatschool.com, or you can visit my website, danelzer.com, and you can check out our membership and also the SWAT program. But that's a way for you to sit at home, take a couple hours, 1 day a week to learn the strategies I'm talking about, follow the assignment form I give you after you're done taking the course, go out and work that 5 days. Remember, 5 days, 1 hour, and then come back and meet with your accountability partner and go through the questionnaire that I have to make sure that you're reflecting on the areas you need to change, the skills you need to focus on, and then you move to the next week. It builds on each other because adults don't learn in a moment in time. What we just did, Andrew, is awareness to people. I see a lot of really cool comments, but habits are stronger than knowledge. That's why I developed this program. You get 8 weeks of it slowly fed to you with exercises to go do. So at the end of those 2 months, you've actually built a new habit, and now you're transforming your business. So check out Real Estate SWAT School, guys. I think you'll be thrilled.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that, Dan. That sounds like a super powerful program. So again, everyone, check it out. RE SWAT School, right?
Yep. RESWATschool.com.
RESWATschool.com. Go check that out. Dan, we had to keep this a little shorter today, but we are going to have to bring you back in the following weeks to really expound on some of these and to see just where the market's going, right?
Yeah.
And to see what else
we should, because we can get more into, presentation technique's important here. We can get into a lot more fun stuff. If you guys have room on the show for me, I'd love to come back.
Absolutely do, Dan. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. Thank you for being here. Join us every Thursday, same time, same place. That's 12:30 West Coast, 3:30 East Coast. I don't know time zones. That's crazy. We're here every Thursday, so join in. And we also have a little sneak peek. We've got a show coming on Tuesday where we're going to do some more live prospecting with some top performing agents in our area. So tune in Tuesday morning for that. We got a lot of people saying thank you. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast already, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. Dan, thank you again so much. We will see you next time.
You got it, Andrew. Tell the team I said hi, and I'll see you next time around.
You betcha.